This is part 3 of chapter 15 of Rotten to the Core,
which I wrote under the name L.B. Herskovitz, by the way. And the protagonist is male in this detective novel. On the platform of the Manhattan-bound commuter train, Beatrice and I stood together, not eliciting a single glance from the gorgeous mosaic of tired faces we passed while waiting there. Many of the couples were interracial. Beatrice seemed to like it, and was holding my arm as if I were her husband. When a couple of nervous, ferret-like African types passed us, wearing those funny little multicolored African pillbox lids they wear and muttering, "Numbers, numbers," she stood slightly behind me, as if I, her big strong man, would defend her. Numbers, numbers, I thought idly, stoned and fatigued under leagues of hydroponic hemp. Numbers. One of the two ferret men spotted my sudden jump to attention, and I nodded his way. He was beside me in what seemed to be a single movement. "How much?" I asked. 20, he spoke like a ventriloquist, his lips barely moving, him making no eye contact. $2 or suck me, I countered, and the deal was done. I stepped away from the quietly astonished Beatrice, and the man stayed at my side while I walked to a platform payphone and dialed my answering machine in Brooklyn, and he non-spoke a series of numbers in that spooky ventriloquist style, and I keyed them in. I heard my answering machine pick up, and he was gone. I had to scramble for my pen and notebook. There was a detailed message from Mikey, the answer man. An address, complete with directions on how to get there, for the place that was one of the last that Elizabeth Allwine dialed from her office. Pay dirt? But impossible to get to until Saturday morning. In exchange for her obedient silence, Beatrice bartered with me on the train into the city. I had to reveal the message I had written down because it had actually caused us to miss a train. As soon as I told her, Beatrice's mind was made up. "We'll go together, love. I'll drive you. I have a fine BMW automobile, don't you know. Afterward, you'll take me somewhere for a lobster. Do we have a deal?" Deal, I had to answer, though my heart wasn't in it. This woman on a stakeout was strictly no-gosville. But the promise of those hydroponic bombers and her fine-sounding set of wheels suckered me into letting her come along. The next 2 days at Shoewise passed horribly slowly, and horribly slowly. And Friday night, I was all ready to crawl home and take a trank, even though I knew it would cause me that weird pain in my liver the next day, when Beatrice left a message on my machine ordering me, get this, ordering me to go up to Stamford to her that night and to be prepared to go to sleep, bed, early, and get up before dawn and head to New Brunswick, New Jersey, where the reverse directory listing was located, so we could stake out the place. I felt sick at the thought of an early morning with dark and lovely Beatrice, who was beginning to close in a little too comfortably for my comfort. But I did as she demanded, and that's how we came to be sitting right in front of the building the next morning, very unobtrusively, since I hadn't bothered to set up an elaborate stakeout. The fancy car and non-stop talking Beatrice were sure to attract every bit of conscious and a good portion of the unconscious attention of that little mean street near the big college campus in New Brunswick. No matter, we saw action in under 30 minutes. The small warehouse building we were watching had a little apartment up on the second floor, with an old-fashioned open stairway going down on the side of the brick-veneered monstrosity. The only other egress was a rickety fire escape on the other side of the building, also in full view of the street. Just 2 hours after leaving Stamford in the dark, We sat sipping coffees in the front seat of her car in the silence of the early Saturday morning. We watched a chubby little spit come out of the apartment and walk slowly and bow-leggedly down the debris-ridden sidewalk toward the next intersection, which had a run-down tavern on one of its corners. I told Beatrice to start the car and to let it idle while we watched the guy. He went into the tavern and used a payphone right near the open front door. He paid for a call with quite a few coins. His conversation lasted only a few seconds. He waved to an unseen bartender or patron, walked outside to the corner, and within a minute boarded a commuter bus. Following the bus from a discreet distance was something Beatrice just couldn't grasp. In no time, I was ready to brain her. I told her so. She wouldn't let me drive. We then got into a huge yelling fight. Now that I think of it, it was probably a great cover. If the guy had noticed us following the bus, he would have seen a man and a woman having maybe a domestic dispute on their way to the city. She dropped me off at the Port Authority bus terminal and peeled away in a cloud of very black anger. I hustled into the terminal, hating Beatrice, hating myself, knowing the buses let people off right into the subway, and that I was never going to find the guy, and wanting a drink. But I found the guy. He walked right in front of me. He looked happy and relaxed. Whatever he was up to, it either caused him no loss of sleep, or he was a terrific actor who loved performing in crowded bus terminals. All right, I'm going to stop, make another segment.
Hope you like this. You know, I never read this since the early 90s. I haven't practiced for this. I'm just reading for you, okay?